Welcome to this presentation of the Rotary Club of North Bethesda, Maryland, USA. Our club was established in 1974. We meet every Friday morning at 7:45 a.m., and we often invite guest speakers to give presentations on all kinds of interesting subjects. Please contact us through our website at nbrotary.org. And thanks for watching.
The speaker this morning is Kathleen Reedy, who is a neighbor and friend at Grosvenor Park. We're also fellow members of North Bethesda Villages. Kathleen is a physiologist, graduate physiologist, and as such, that's what led her to her assignment in Antarctica on a National Science Foundation grant. So Kathleen, she's got some fabulous pictures to show us.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Antarctica is the highest, wildest, driest, coldest, windiest, iciest, cleanest, emptiest, quietest place on Earth. Antarctica has no national frontiers, no governments, no police. The Antarctic continent is 1/10 of the world's landmass. It is the 5th largest continent, covering about 14 million square kilometers. It is half again larger than the United States and 56 times larger than the United Kingdom. Antarctica is a long way from any other continent. 1,000 kilometers separate the Antarctic Peninsula from South America. The next nearest continent is 2,500 kilometers away. The Antarctic continent is hostile and remote, isolated from the rest of the world by a stormy ocean, isolated from most living things by the extreme cold and harshness of its climate. It is a dangerous place to visit. Mistakes can't be made. It is rather like the ocean or space. Antarctica makes the rules. The visitor needs to understand and obey them. Go. So that's title page, go. In introduction, get this right. The North Pole is in the middle of an ocean surrounded by continents. Go. And the South Pole is in the middle of a continent surrounded by oceans. Okay.
Nobody's going to see that laser.
Really? I don't know. Okay. Okay. So we fly from the United States to Christchurch, New Zealand. And at Christchurch, there is an United States Antarctic Center. And we fly from there to McMurdo Station. McMurdo Station is the largest scientific station on the continent. It is one of 3 United States stations. So very close to it, see the Scott base, that's the New Zealand station. And then of course there is the South Pole. So I am in New Zealand on my way. And at the Antarctic Center, we are distributed, given our clothing. This is polypropylene long underwear and wool socks. What are these called? Polar Tech jacket and pants. This is the second layer. And the third layer is Gore-Tex wind pants and a down parka with the hood with a fur on it. The gloves, there are polypro gloves on the inside, but a canvas mitt that is also lined. And you'll notice the bunny boots. They are about 12 pounds each, and the sole is about 1.5 inches thick. That keeps your feet away from the ice. We're given 2 orange bags to carry all of our belongings to Antarctica. And we're here with the Antarctica Center, the air base. And from here, we're lined up to get on the plane. It's LC 141. And we line up there. And we take off over the Southern Ocean, which is a combination of all the other oceans, the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, they all come together in the Southern Ocean that rotates around the continent. We are we're shoulder to shoulder in this airplane, and the seats, the benches are about 8-inch aluminum benches, and you can see the mesh, just cloth mesh behind us to lean back on. You see the oxygen things up over our head, just in case. The bags on our lap were handed a bag lunch because it's about an 8-hour flight across the ocean to McMurdo. And in this flight, we are knee to knee with the bench across us, which means that there's 4 lines of people. Now, my first flight, I was on the side, at the side of the plane like this. My feet straddled a big chain. My knees were against the tire of a pickup truck. And this what the chain was holding it down. And behind that was a hay. So, all kinds of everything goes on this flight. It just, so. This is the ice runway on the ice. The sea ice is thick enough until about January to land a plane and drive vehicles, and we have big equipment there that smooths it all the time. And you see that flags along the side that are guiding, in case there's wind or it's a whiteout where you can't. Well, if it's a whiteout and you can't see, you don't land. So, McMurdo Station is located actually on Ross Island. In 1840, a British sea captain with 2 ships, his name was Ross, and he was the first Brit anyway to touch the continent there. At the bottom of the green, you see the Ross ice shelf. And that is the sea ice that never melts at all, but connects the island to the mainland. And above the island is the Ross Sea, also named for him. And Ross Island is named for him. The 2 brown spots there are volcanoes. Now, Ross brought 2 ships, the Erebus and the Terror. And he named the 2 volcanoes Mount Erebus and Mount Terror. At this point, Mount Erebus is still an active volcano. Mount Terror is dormant. Now, his first mate was McMurdo. And so the American station is named McMurdo. And this is the surrounding McMurdo station. The ice, and then you see it, the ice just flows up, whatever the wind does to it. Wow. This is an ice cave, and on one of my excursions off the station, I did go down in this particular ice cave, and I needed help getting out. The people lined up behind me had to push me back up the hill. And they change, they find them, and you can go in there, and maybe the next season it's gone.
Is that all ice there? That
Yes,
these are mountains.
both.
Oh,
Now this right here, okay, next one then. There, that's McMurdo Station. Now, let me try this and see if I can see these. Yeah, that doesn't work.
Those appears.
Yeah. On the upper right, you see the round storage bins for the fuel. There's about 7 or 8 of them. And across the back is the dormitories and it's, across there. There's a large building that's the galley and the offices and the medical center. And I work out of the medical center most of the time. And there's a newer building in front of that. That's the fire station. That's a big issue. There's fire. On the left, in 3 steps, you can see the science lab. It's in 3 parts. And
Blue.
yes, I think it's blue. Yeah. And to the left of that is the power station and the water purifier. They just, pull the water in and the power station. And then down the front are all kinds of other workshops and things that they need to maintain the station. And again, this is the largest station on the continent.
that grass and everything, the greenery, is that
Oh, heck no, there's nothing grows there.
right? So why did it all green?
I'm not sure it's really green. It's
Gray.
yeah, it's ice. Station itself, where they built all this stuff, and they keep the motor vehicles running across it. The roads are pretty much gravel. We're down to maybe down to the earth below the ice and most of it, but no, there's nothing that grows there.
Greenery, not really green.
No, it's not green.
All the building materials was brought in by
Ship. It's a year. Yeah, right. And actually, the Navy built the station in about 1950, late 40s, 1950, and that's why it's called a galley where you eat your meals. It's just always been that way. Just across the sea, that's across the Ross Ice Shelf, and you see the mainland, and that is the Royal Society Range. Now that is mountains. Prairie Lab from the top, and I did a great deal of my work in the medical center, but we had offices, at least and laboratories there too. The blood lab, etc., was there. And the third and lowest section of the Prairie Lab is near the water, and all of the scientists that are looking at sea life work out of there. Starfish, and these are krill and something else. Now, the Antarctic Treaty says that you need to, that humans need to stay at least 20 feet away from any wildlife. Well, this penguin just appeared at McMurdo, exploring or something. And so it went right through the station. Penguin, go down to the edge or edge. And so there's this crowd of people 20 feet away looking at the penguin. He looks at us and he walks right up to us. So, if he walks up to you, I guess you can't. You let him. You go with. Okay, I was in a vehicle. Next one.
These are emperor penguins.
No, these are Adelie penguins. I only saw one emperor penguin, but they're in a different area. It's the Adelies are the ones that come down this far, and actually they're probably
the baby of the penguin is green.
No, it's white.
Just dirty.
Well, it looks like green. I mean, if you go to up near the spot.
Okay, well, that's why it looked like grass. That's
It's new computer is different.
Okay,
Nobody in
maybe
here.
so. Yeah, so I'm in a vehicle and we're, you know, the machinery that they have, there's a picture of it, you know, the trucks that level out the runways and roads where it's safe, you know, and they check the ice and all that kind of thing. That's what I was, well, when I went to the ice cave, that's what I was on an excursion to check the depth of the ice and where it was safe to drive anything. So I'm in a vehicle going out to Cape Evans on a flagged road that had been cleared, and out the window we see the penguins out there playing, you know, and they're running around and they'll run and then they'll flop down like the one there and slide along the ice. And if there's a little hill, you know, it's just really fun. So there's one kind of, he kind of got away from the others and wasn't in a, you know, what they do by themselves, they wander off. A skua is a scavenger bird, and they're only there in the summer, and they kind of come around the station because with humans and food and waste and stuff that they can smell, they hang around there. But they do prey on penguin eggs and baby penguins too. They fly north in the Antarctic winter, in the Australia winter. So they're only there in the summer, 4 or 5 months. And this, you see occasionally out on the ice, you see a hole there. Seals, that's the Weddell seals that are on this side of the continent. And they will live underwater for quite a while, but they need to come up. They chew themselves a hole and they come up and rest. It's a mama and a baby resting on the ice, and they, you know, who knows, they may stay there a day or two. They actually around Scott Base, the whole cover of the ice is covered with Weddell seals out there, you know, in a group resting.
What do they eat?
In the water.
What do they eat?
The second slide of the water research, that those things, krill and the small fish and small things that are in the water. They feed in the water all the time, like the whales. They feed in the water all the time. And they had the killer. I've seen killer whales there too. Some of them came up to the shore when I get to that piece. Come up to the shore and are leaping around. But one time I was in a plane going to the South Pole, and one whole school killer whales just leaping up in unison like a chorus line. They're gorgeous. Here must be, can you see where the sun is going across the sky? So I'm guessing this is sometime. This has to be sometime in November, where the sun is up all the time. It never goes down, but it just goes around and around because, you know, the Earth is at that level, or is at that level toward the sun. Cape Evans. I think I'm on the way to Cape. Is this a sunset? Yeah, I don't see me. I thought I was in that picture. Okay, go to the next one, please. This is Scott. Robert Falcon Scott was a British explorer, and he came to Antarctica in 1902. And he built this cabin. Up at the very top, you see McMurdo Station. So McMurdo Station was built in proximity to where he left this cabin. His plan was to walk to the South Pole, and he started out and decided he couldn't manage it. Came back here, got on a ship, went back to England. So in 1911, he came back with, he built a bigger cabin, he brought more supplies, he brought more people, and that cabin is still there, and that's where it's at Cape Evans. That's where I was going on when I saw the penguins. And well, okay, back up one, please. I just wanted to point out that when they left, any supplies and food that was there is still there. It's still there. Everything is still there. And you see the heating system right in the middle there. Okay.
It's like refrigerating.
And in this alcove is where Robert Scott, the captain, and Wilson, the physician, they had their private, they didn't sleep where the enlisted people did. And you see a penguin on the table there where they were planning to do a little medical work, but they didn't get to do that. Okay, next. Above the physician's bunk are shelves of medications, and then next. And interestingly, this was thyroid. When I get to what my research was, this is interesting that almost 100 years before we were there, that they knew something about the thyroid. So and we never found out what they thought. This is the ice outside the cabin where there are empty boxes, and he brought dogs, and the leashes and the collars are just laying around out there, and because they left in a hurry. I think, okay, he was there some time planning his trip. And what Scott did was he took like 20 people and started out with sleds, dogs with the sleds. And then they created a space and left 5 people there. And then went another couple of days and left 5 people there, and then made a camp. And in the end, he had just 5 people and no more dogs. The people, his men were pulling the sleds when they went to the pole. Now he started like in November. At the same time, a Norwegian, Ralph Amundsen, was in another part of the continent, and he was going toward the South Pole. Now he had experience at the North Pole. So and they were Norwegian. So they all had skis, and they had dogs that were trained, and they pulled their supplies. And they got there mid-December of 1911. Scott had a whole lot more trouble getting there. British people didn't ski, and so they were tromping in their boots, etc. They got there in mid-January. So he was very depressed. But the 5 of them, on their way back, they didn't quite get to the first station that they had made on the way up, and they all perished there. There was a storm, and they all died. Mm-hmm. So they never got back. They were found a year later. They found them in their tent, and they had written diaries, so they knew that they'd gotten there. And this is an issue, is cracks in the ice. So, I'm coming back. Okay, I'm coming back now from Cape Evans and the mountains there. Mount Erebus, that's erupting up there in the right side. Another view. And this is, I think, a close-up. Mount Erebus. It is. And there have been expeditions that climbed the mountain and tried to drop things to examine what the metals and what the chemicals were in there, and none of them have succeeded yet. So, yeah.
Why hasn't it succeeded?
Well, the first time when they got up to the edge, all of the equipment fell into the crater.
Well, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And then either it freezes before or after, or they didn't, I do have a rock that is volcanic rock from there. So as it spills down the side, you can pick up a rock. So, you know, they may have gotten some by now, but when I was there, they still hadn't. You know, maybe in the last 10 years, they may have gotten something out of it. So the light purple is what the ice coverage around the continent is in the winter. And the dark purple is how much doesn't ever melt. It's there all summer. And this, the little purple view in there is Ross Sea, and Ross Island is down at the bottom of that. And on the other side of the continent where the peninsula is, that's the Weddell Sea. But we're looking here at the side that is toward New Zealand. And I think the next, go ahead. Here's what happens next.
Quick question.
This is the Coast Guard icebreaker. And the icebreaker in January, that ship comes in and cuts a lane in the ice right up to McMurdo, into the Ross Sea, right up to McMurdo. This is, so in January, besides the ice cutter, which you see on the left, is a fuel ship, which, you know, it fills all those tanks up on the hill so that there's heat in the station. And, okay, and in February, the supply ship comes in, the only ship with supplies for an entire year, only one ship in February for a whole year's supply.
So that's midsummer.
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
summer.
that's summer.
January,
That's midsummer.
summer.
And when it's offloaded, what they do is they fill the ship with a whole year's worth of garbage and waste and mass. That was recycling 30 years ago, well, 40 years ago, before we had to do it here in the United States. This is a Hageland, and it's a two thing. I was riding in the truck. It's a track vehicle. And you see survival gear on top of it, and anything that goes off the station has to have the survival gear on it. So this fell in with me in it, fell in a crevasse with me in it, but we got out. But in the background is Ivan the terror bus, and that's what takes people around to different places. And I'm on the ice waiting to get on the plane to go back to New Zealand. That's the truck that I had my knees up against, right? The guy there is Borg Oosland. He has just walked across the continent. He started at the Weddell Sea. He had a parachute that was his, the wind. And he had skis, and he had a harness with a sled with his supplies on it. But he started at Weddell, went across the South Pole, and ended up here at Scott Base. Equipment that does the runways. Go. And people who map it out and put the flags out. This is the one time I went in the dark. Okay, there's the one with the sun. The one time I went in the dark, you see the moon, but you see the aurora australis across there. Okay, go. And this is okay. One ahead. This is the sunrise. This is early October when it first comes above the horizon. And I'm standing there watching it. And eventually in January, it's up there all the time. There's about 20 days when, okay, survival gear. I was out on the ice in a survival training. We're out there for 2 days. And what's in the survival gear is tools to cut yourself ice blocks, to make an igloo, to make a wind screen. And we also pitched a tent, but you see a stove there and dried food. And we also had a radio in order to make contact with whoever to come and rescue or tell whoever where we are. And then we had training in a whiteout, how you find somebody in a whiteout that gets lost. That was a 2-day training. Okay, so my research in normal times on the left, number one, the food that you eat fuels your body to do all the work that you do. But in the cold, you see it here, everything slows down. So normally the thyroid gland exudes T4 to the brain that supports the function of the brain. The T3 comes down into the body to heat it and support physical activity. In extreme cold, back one. In extreme cold, you see the T4 is extremely reduced to the brain. The T4 is converted to T3 to the body, and all of it goes to heating the body. See, even the physical activity down here is reduced. So what happens is irritability, lethargy, sleeplessness, and thinking, impaired thinking. And everyone else calls it the winter over syndrome, but in our research, we obviously called it the T3 syndrome. So what we did was have 2 groups, and one was placebo and one we gave supplemental T4 so that their brain function was improved, but still had enough to convert to T3 to support to the right here, to support the heat, but you still see that the physical activity is a bit impaired. Now, this is LC-130, and this is the plane that I fly from McMurdo Station to the South Pole. And, okay, just point out that I'm going from McMurdo to the pole. The Royal Society Range, the Beardsmore Glacier, and the Transantarctic Mountains as I'm flying there. Now, this is a plateau at 10,000 feet. We're at the South Pole. Okay, this is the newest station. Okay, what do you want?
We could perhaps have you back for another continuation.
For the South Pole?
Yes.
Okay, go. This is the new station at the South Pole. It was built, the only thing, the last time I ever went, the only thing that was done in there was the galley. But now it's fully functional. The first station is like 40 feet under ice because of the wind that blows and drifts. And the second station that I worked out of is about 10 years under ice. Huge. Go.
Built by the states, built by the US?
Yeah, the Navy. Yes.
Thank you, Kathleen. Very interesting.
Yeah, I sorry you didn't get to the South Pole.
Discussion. The president will stay around.
Okay, oh yeah,
But I do have to close this off at 8:30, and we'll again see you January 6th for our next meeting. And for those of you able, we'll see you tomorrow at the Christ Church in Rockville for the memorial. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Great to see you, Christine.
You too.
Lisa.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you have a great one.